start our study session. So if we could have a seat and quiet it down, thank you. I have item number 8, and I will know by Monday. Councilor Bay.
Thank you. I have items number 9 through 13. And if we can start with number 9, just for benefit of those councilors who were not, I believe everybody was here, wasn't it?
Good afternoon, Councilors. Owen Kearney with City Planning Division. The number 9 is a request to amend a previous ordinance, which is a contract with Saratoga Associates. They are working with the city on our project in Meacham Park. Those of you that have been on Seneca Turnpike recently have seen construction is underway down there. We had expected the project to be completed by this point, but there are some delays on materials, and we'll be receiving those materials really either beginning later this month and into next month. And because of that, we want to extend our contract with them so they can be on board with us to the end of the project. So this is a request to extend their contract end date, I believe to the end of the year, and with no change to the scope of work or the cost of the contract, no increase in the cost. So just simply extend the date so they can continue to work with us. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from colleagues?
Just one quickie. Are they going to be able to work through the winter?
Our expectation is that we would be complete before the winter. So that's what we're focused on getting those materials in, getting completed, and wrapping things up this year.
Any further questions? All right, I'll be ready. Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Collins? Item number 10.
Good afternoon, councilors. Michael Collins, Commissioner, Department of Neighborhood and Business Development. See if I can get everybody in between the posts here. Item 10 and item 11 is a companion piece. We are asking that the council hold a public hearing in support of an application to New York State Housing Community Renewal. We intend to apply on behalf of Home Headquarters for an application for CDBG CV funds that would allow them to do substantial rehab on 33 units and to do demolition on up to 10 that are beyond the point of being able to be rehabilitated. And then along with that, with the next item would be the permission to apply.
All right. Any questions? All right. Thanks, Commissioner. Yep. And is Ms. Mendola here? Anyone from zoning? Items number 12 and 13.
Good afternoon, councilors. So I have 2 special permits. One is a care home and the other is a restaurant.
Any questions from colleagues?
What was the second one? Sorry, I couldn't hear.
The other one is a restaurant. It was the old Subway. And the first one is a care home on Court Street for Joseph's House for women.
No questions? All right, thank you.
Just, Heather, if we could maybe get together with Joe at some point regarding that issue over on Gifford Street, regarding whether we can pull a special permit if they haven't lived up to their agreement at some point.
Okay. Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Those are my items.
Thank you. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 14 and 15. Item 14 is a revenue anticipation note that was presented in the standing committee meeting by the school district. Does anyone have any questions on that item? Okay. And item 15 is a correction of tax rolls for a few properties. Does anyone have any questions on that item? Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Kearney.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 16 through 32. Is there someone who can speak to item 16? Engineering, I believe. Yep.
Good afternoon, councilors. Mary Robison, city engineer. Item 16 is an application for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant. Grant application is in the amount not to exceed $6.2 million for the Erie Boulevard Mixed-Use Trail and Road Diet Project. It has a 20% local match, which would be $1.24 million. And we would include this on our 22-23 CIP if we're awarded the grant. Grant's due the end of this month.
Any questions from my colleagues on this one?
Yeah, is that a large match for you guys, 1.2? Does it feel kind of fairly standard, or is that a big lift for you guys?
This is very similar to our TIP projects. It's just a different grant source, so no.
Okay.
This one, no?
No, TAP funding isn't eligible for Marchicelli, so we would have to pay the full 20%.
17.
Similarly, same grant source. We're requesting a grant for not to exceed $2 million for the Kirk Park pedestrian bridge over Onondaga Creek. The 20% local match is $400,000.
Any questions on this one? My colleagues, no? Okay, that's ready. 18.
18 is a revocable permission to G&K Trucking LLC. They're working with DEC and are required to install a groundwater monitoring well in Wolf Street at 239 Wolf Street, and it would be for a 2-year period.
Councilor Hogan, you have any concerns about that? No? Okay. So then, item 19. Thank you.
Afternoon, councilors. So this is amending a current agreement that we have with Arcadis for the Washington Street Garage. Their previous minimum and maximum from the 2016 agreement was 150 and 220, and we have negotiated, they've requested a minimum of 30 and a maximum of 100.
So I got a couple calls about this one, and it raised some concerns. I guess, first, my assumption would be it's probably more folks who are working remotely, so they don't need as many parking spaces. With this, I mean, it's a 10-year agreement. We gave them a rate. I guess the only concern would be, is this going to set a precedent going forward for people who vote? Like, how often do we go back on these agreements and plans, and how busy was that garage prior to? I mean, I know at the standing committee meeting that we had, it was, we're, willing to take them back on, but is it, the Washington Street Garage, I don't ever really remember being so busy that, we were, clamoring for more spots in it. So
Yeah,
just the concern of the loss of revenue for us.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there will be some loss of revenue. I can certainly get you numbers in terms of capacity. I mean, it's certainly not empty. It does see a lot of action. And we're approached by businesses all the time that are looking for spots. This is the only one, to my knowledge, where they have negotiated a reduced, that they want to keep the spots, but they want to reduce the amount of numbers. We've had some people that have just canceled outright. And our agreements allow for that if you give us the proper notice and all of that. So, I'm not overly concerned about it, particularly given the capacity of Washington and how often we are approached by people. So, so we don't have any particular concern. I think, given the relationship that we now have with Laz, we'll obviously have a better handle on revenue and what we're actually making from the garages. But I think also just given the nature of whether it's the pandemic or the way that workplace is changing, we do want to maintain some sort of flexibility.
So, I mean, from my perspective, and I don't want to speak for the rest of my colleagues, but I would be more interested in seeing how many businesses downtown canceled completely with us, rather than, what we project.
Right. I wouldn't say it's I wouldn't say it's an overwhelming number, but we can certainly get the numbers of folks who have canceled.
I'd just be curious to know that.
Yeah, we've had a number of individuals who, outside of their business, just as an individual, they were paying for a spot, and particularly in the immediate, last summer when we were really in the throes of the pandemic, a number of people canceled, and per the terms of their agreement, they're allowed to do that. So I can certainly get you that data, though.
Any other questions from my colleagues on this one?
Yep. So are they allowed to cancel unilaterally, or how does this agreement work?
There's usually a period of time at which they need to give us notice. I could get from the law department what the standard agreement is, but it's usually you need to give us, 3 months notice or whatever it is in order to cancel.
I'd be interested in seeing that, just because it is a significant revenue reduction. I mean, it's over $100,000 a year that they're saving by reducing this. So if it's something where they have the leverage to cancel the entire thing, then okay. But if they're just not using it and don't want to spend the money, then it's not really our.
Yeah, and
Problem.
they're asking for, flexibility if they have people that are coming in a few days a week, what our flexibility is with there. I think we do want to obviously hold people to the line as the agreement that they signed, but I think we also do want to stay competitive and maintain some flexibility, just given the changing nature of the workforce. But I'd be happy to give you a copy of what our standard agreement is.
Because it, to Councilor Carney's point, it would create some incentive for companies then to lock in a certain number of spots for a certain period of time, knowing that if they ever want to lay people off or anything like that, they can just come back and relinquish the spots.
Yeah, it's up to the city to be open to negotiating it. In this particular case, we were open to negotiating, including, some initial pushback in the number of maximum spots. And we just said, if you're only providing a minimum of 30, we can't hold 220 spots in case you need them. And so, we need to knock down that maximum number as well.
Or do we ever have like a waiting list where business
Not necessarily a waiting list, but we do have some garages that are at a higher capacity than others, and so it would be more difficult. The Lafayette garage, for example, is one that has a very high capacity rate, so the usage is very high there. So if someone came into us with an enormous request, we might not be able to accommodate it at the Lafayette garage, but the Washington Street garage, we would have more flexibility there.
Corey, I think maybe also if we had like a look in the whole thing, any kind of agreement we made regarding parking that was tied in any kind of pilot agreement or anything like that, that probably help us out a little bit too. They can't sublease these spaces, can they?
So, you mean from?
I'm just thinking about like the Fayette Street garage, the one that's, sort of packed all the time.
So if the building manager
says we don't have 10 people come in, and I'll give 10 spaces to this other person.
Yeah, I'll find out. I would guess that we would have some sort of language in there that says the spaces were given to you for your use, but
Or is
I
that
can
just a product of
confirm
my
that.
larcenous mind, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Well, let's seek some help for that.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to be clear. I'm not, I'm fine with
Sure.
doing this. I guess my concern is just precedent that we set going forward with this. And then, I get that we have to be competitive because it can be expensive to be downtown, especially when people are starting to work more and more remotely and don't have to come into the office. But I also don't want to see us at the city get taken advantage of if we're trying to bend over backwards to, keep individuals and they want to come back and renegotiate agreements that they committed to at the price and the deal that we were giving them for 10 years.
Yeah, no, that's a totally valid point and important data for me to share with you all. It's also, I think, given the changing nature of the workforce and the perhaps changing nature of garages, this kind of plays into the overall conversation about how many garages the city should really be operating and owning.
I'm fine with unloading them and also the asphalt plant.
Dream come true.
Yeah.
For me.
Okay.
So I do want to just make sure we get whether or not this is unilaterally cancelable. Because if it's not, I'm not comfortable with it.
Right.
because Why would we give up the revenue? So,
Sure.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, item 20 is amendment to an agreement with energy automation. Are there someone that can speak to that? Thank you. I was nervous we didn't have anybody.
Tim Rudd, Budget Director. We talked briefly about this in the committee hearing. This is just correcting some of the language around the end date. This was before you, the previous council session, so it just makes it so that when we finish the RFP process, we can hire the new, or whoever gets the RFP award will be able to start then. There was a little confusion around the language of the extension, so it's just fixing that. Any questions?
I do not. Do any of my colleagues have any questions on this one? No? Okay.
Thank you.
That's ready to go. Thank you. So, I believe the remaining items are all water items. The next one is amending the contract with CHA for the pump station. Booster pump,
Good afternoon, Beth Smith, Management Analyst from the Water Department. Item 21 is requesting permission to not to exceed the amount for the contract with CHA. They've just completed the design of the pump station and would like to include surveying and construction inspection services on this project.
Any questions on this one? No? All right, I'm fine with it, so that's ready. Next item, 22.
Item 2 is simply replacing the purchase of 2 trailers with 2 compressors from our existing capital account.
Yep. Any questions from my colleagues on this one? No? Okay, that one's ready to go. 23.
Great. Item 23 is to award a contract with GHD for the design of the chlorine replacement project. We're replacing chlorine gas with liquid for safety reasons.
It's ready to go. There aren't any questions? No? All right.
Great. Item 24 is, again, awarding a contract to EDR for the Mosley Pump Station that needs a full replacement due to age and structural issues.
Okay.
25 is cash capital, part of our CIP plan to begin the design of the Bose Gatehouse rehab. It was built in 1922, so it needs a full replacement.
Okay. Any questions on that one? Nope. All right, that's ready to go as well.
26, again, is an annual cash capital program for our fire hydrant replacement program. We maintain a list of all 5,500 hydrants within the city that need replacement and repair. 27 is,
Can I go back?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And ask a quick question? Because I know that the hydrants have to constantly replace them, and I've been here 10 years, and we've been replacing hydrants as long as I've been here. So there's never a slowdown with replacements.
unfortunately, no, we replace approximately 85 hydrants per year on a maintenance schedule, but then throughout the year, there's accidents that need, additional replacements, and there's 5,500 within the system, so it's just an ongoing process.
And when we have accidents, does their insurance company pay for that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We work with the police department for the police report. We go after their insurance company. It's pretty straightforward. They're very good with reimbursing us all cost, whether it's on overtime or straight time.
How long is a fire hydrant's life expectancy? How long do they typically, does it, I'm assuming it varies, but generally, if you had to ballpark an average of how long a fire hydrant lasts?
I would ballpark 50 years. That's 50 years, again. But the hydrants installed 50 years ago may not be up to code, so we're replacing the older ones
As well.
as we go along as well.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely, definitely. Any other questions?
Ready to go. Thank you.
Great. 27, again, is an annual cash capital program to install a new water main. And we do have an ongoing list of streets that we would like to get to each year. So that's to purchase the main and any appurtenances.
So I apologize. I know I had this in my notes, or maybe, Commissioner Awald was gonna get it to me, but how many mains do we believe? It's, 1.5, almost 1.6 million that we're allotting for this. How many do we believe that we're gonna replace?
Right. The estimate we utilize is $350 a foot. So this will, you know,
That many feet, okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. Can't do that in my head.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. And item 28 is, again, an ongoing annual program for the security of our system, you know, various facilities throughout the area, intrusion alarms, fencing, just keeping all of our facilities safe and secure. 29, again, is another annual program. Our various pump stations, facilities, and vaults. Again, if things come up throughout the year, this is money to help repair them on an as-needed basis. Item 30 is our annual cash capital for vehicles, equipment. You see we have a listing down at the bottom for various vehicles. And
Question on
last-
that one, Beth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, over behind the pole.
Oh, yes.
So, for the vehicles, does your department, do you operate the vehicles independently, or do we use the, Rich DeVesti, is he involved in water as well?
Rich DeVesti is involved.
Okay.
We do have 2 mechanics who maintain and work closely with Rich DeVesti for
Okay.
any purchases. Absolutely.
Okay.
And the last 2 items are the bond and project authorization for the Lafayette PRV. Up near Lafayette, south branch of the system, and it's replacing a smaller Lafayette reservoir. This will help improve redundancy and help higher pressure in the area.
Okay,
Questions?
all right, that's ready. And for anyone who's wondering, 4,500 square feet, or 4,500 feet. I did
Thank
the
you.
math on the calculator.
Nice, look at this
It
kid.
doesn't work that good. All right, thank you very much. Those are all my items, and they're all ready. Madam President.
Thank you. Counselor Hogan.
Thank you, President. You know, as a sort of a tail end to Counselor Carney's agenda items, Corey, is there some sort of clearinghouse? While I was trying to access my favorite sandwich shop yesterday downtown, which was ended up being about, not Darwin's, but no offense,
Yeah, it's fine. You don't like my sandwiches, do you?
but no offense, but you weren't downtown. You're not downtown.
I'm not downtown, no.
But
Counselor Carney, you're my
went
favorite
through the
sandwich shop, for
Thank
what it's
you.
worth.
We went.
I like it when you lie to me.
No, it's
Oh,
true.
see, South Salina Street project, Clinton Street, and then North Salina Street and Butternut. So there is I imagine you meet every week with the police and the fire department and DPW to sort of like coordinate. Because I've never seen it quite. I know it's an election year and I know it's construction's important and all that, but I mean,
Construction's important any year, Counselor.
That's right.
Every year it's
it
important.
seems to be very important this year.
Well, thank you
is
to
there
New
a-
York State for the Touring Roots money, and thank you to TIP, and thank you to,
Yes.
the council for their support of our capital plan.
Just a coincidence. But I just wonder, is there a coordination at all? I know the police department's understaffed and fire department. Is there like, they coordinate?
There is. I mean, we have regularly scheduled Dig Once meetings with engineering, with the water department, with Kevin Hunter, with DPW, with Neil, so that we can coordinate our projects. Not all the construction that's happening is us. Verizon has construction going on downtown.
These are all.
These are road recon?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, and also specific to downtown, the downtown committee is also having meetings, I think it's every week or every other week, that's available. They send out emails on a regular basis to all businesses and residents downtown to review the current schedule. There's, SearGov.net/infrastructure has our infrastructure projects up on there and timelines, and you can watch the meetings if you miss them. They're all recorded. So, I mean, there is coordination that does take place.
I'm more worried about emergency services.
Sure.
And all
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
So,
there's-
They're updated on,
Yeah, certainly always room for improvement, but there is coordination that goes on every year.
okay, well, I have.
Each year it gets better and better.
It has helped me with my confidence level a little.
Thank you, Counselor.
Did you get your sandwich, Counselor Hogan?
Well, no, I'm going to go to Counselor Carney's now.
No, that's fine. I don't need your pity.
I got you, Joe, I got you.
I make great sandwiches. President Hudson knows.
All the time, and like
My
your soup.
soup's phenomenal.
Your soup is great.
See, there's a lot of bipartisan sandwich.
Food brings everybody.
Yeah.
All righty, Counselor Hogan, it's on you.
Okay. And Commissioner, why don't you start right off at 33, Commissioner?
Good afternoon, Julie Lefebvre, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. Item number 33 is to enter into an agreement with Fight for Hearts. This is a program that we offer at our youth programming for free for anybody who shows up. We would like to begin that programming in October.
Can I, just for a minute, Counselor Hogan?
Sure.
I want to applaud you on this Fight for Hearts because I met the man that does it, and he came to this country as a young child because in his country he wasn't able to get a heart thingy, so he came here. And since then, I think he's had 3. So he thinks it's very important that all children are afforded the opportunity, and he's fighting to save hearts. So, yeah.
He goes over and above for us.
Yes, he
So,
does.
I thank you. And he does some adult programming as well, too, that are free to the public as well. So we hope to continue working with him for a long time.
What after-school program, where is he at?
So he's at the Magnarelli, and last week you guys asked if he could be at Kirk as well. We will talk to our directors of each center to make sure that we can get him in as many of the locations as possible.
34?
Item number 34 is an annual agreement that we enter into with Red Cross, and that's for us to become an authorized lifeguard program to offer classes. Item number 35, this is tied project-wise to items 39 and 40 on here. Item number 35 is an old capital account that we are requesting to amend. One, so that we can pay for the overage for the Westmoreland Park, the courts. The prices have gone up, and then the remainder balance of that, we would like to do paving. So the balance of this, along with item number 39, which is capital account for 100,000, along with a previous 100,000, we would like to pave. Per request last week from Councilor Hogan, we did get the quotes, so I can tell you that the 4 that we intend to do with these 3 combined accounts would be Kirk Park, Wadsworth, Schiller, and Homer Wheaton. We would like to add the additionals in there because if there's obviously a balance of funds left, then we can maybe squeeze in another location.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate you sending me that, and I'll forward this to all of my council colleagues.
I
Yes.
had constituents reach out to me, and they wanted to know what we were going to do with the skate park over there on Water Street.
So the one that's in Ormond Spencer Park?
I think.
Yes, it's by the water
By the
department.
dog park,
Yes, by the new dog park. So that is a park, that's an area that's been informally adopted by the skaters, so we don't have any intentions to do anything to it because it clearly is loved and it's taken care of, it's maintained. We go in and pick up trash, but I think we would do further damage to the neighborhood if we went and just demolished that.
I'm not saying demolish it, but
Okay.
I think they're doing crates, and some of the people that called me want to use their hoverboards and go out there and use the park.
So do you want us to not regulate, I don't want to use the word regulate, do you want us to take more of a notice of trying to see what activities are being taken, what is going on in there? Okay.
Commissioner, one question. On
Yes.
number 35, the letter says Thornton Park, but you said Homer Wheaton. Is that?
It's between, so I listed the 4 parks, and between these 3 capital accounts, they're all listed, and then,
So Thornton should still be in there.
yes, because if there's a balance of funds, if the quotes are wrong or anything, then we can squeeze in another one of these
I didn't know
locations.
if we need a new letter, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on those ones?
No.
Item 36, 37, and 38 are related to just reallocating funds so that we can, hopefully this season, still complete the Passes Arboretum Park fence.
Excellent.
Item 39 and 40 is what we spoke about with the paving. And items 41 and 42 are urban forestry related. Steve Harris spoke to them. I do have notes if I could do the best of my ability, but he answered a lot of the questions last week if you have any questions.
Any questions?
I'm all set on that.
Commissioner, I thank you and the administration on their nimble reaction to the, as far as the Pass Arboretum fence.
We're gonna try to get that done, like I said, this season, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor? Counselor Majuk?
Take it away, Chief.
Thank you. That's part about coming up to the mic is you get to take the mask off.
Joe Cecil, First Deputy Chief with Syracuse Police Department. The only item we have on here is number 43. It's to request to use some of the American Rescue Plan Act money to the tune of just under $500,000 for repair, maintenance, and replacement of current cameras, and if we have money left over, to put up new cameras, cops cameras on the streets.
Any questions?
Yeah, Counselor. So, Chief, we don't know how many are down right now. Is that the issue? Is in terms of how many are out? We don't know.
We would never be able to give you that number. Let me explain why. It's not as if, when we say down, it could be a branch that broke and is now in front of the camera. So down means an array of things. It doesn't mean broke. It just means some leaves might have gotten there. Even when we have a storm and some water gets on the lens, that could technically be down because it can't get the footage. So if you're talking broke, we know exactly how many are broke. Right now, we currently don't have any that are broke, but we have some that are reaching the end of their life cycle. But again, that down thing is a number that's very, very difficult to gauge, because until we look at every camera, we don't know overnight whether something has gotten in the way of the lens.
Do we utilize the police department to do asset management of that, or do we use an outside agency, or how do we manage those?
Sure. So as far as it's a combination of both. For a while, it was just the police department. We had an officer we had our own bucket truck, and he'd go out and do everything. But we just recently, last year, contracted with IK Systems, which is a computer company, which actually is the installer of the cameras themselves. They recently changed names, but it's IK Systems now, and they contract to go out and maintain them now for us. But as far as viewing and determining whether they're down, a lot of that comes from the SPOs, the special police officers, the retired officers that we brought back that view these cameras. And they're the ones that usually are the first ones to spot that there's a branch in front of this one, there's water on this one, something's going on with it.
So the company we contract with, they don't track if something's broken, or they don't give us numbers related to that?
They do not, no. And the reason is simply this: they're not viewing our footage. The only way we determine, and you would think in this day and age, and we should probably look into this, you'd think in this day and age there would be some type of red light that would go off when this thing's not bringing footage back. Currently, it's just your eyesight. It's the SBO saying, I noticed the one on Midland's not giving us good footage, or it's blurred or something like that. There's no, and we've asked the company this before, there's no kind of alert system that they can give us that would indicate that these three are down or this one's down.
Yeah, I think it's just something that obviously so important, particularly when a crime occurs and if the camera happens to be down. And it may be an opportunity for collaboration with the I-team or someone else, because, the people that are viewing that are retired officers, they're retired officers, they're not IT professionals, right? Their expertise is not there. So if there's an ability to collaborate, it may be beneficial as well.
Yep, understood.
Thank you, Counselor.
Remind me again, Chief, what's the life expectancies for these cameras?
They tell us 5 to 7, but we have some that are in their 10th year, so 5 to 7 is the average.
I just want to follow up on that maintenance question. So do you mean to say that there is not a systematic process in place to check whether or not these cameras are working?
That's exactly it. There's no alarm system that's going off if this one goes down or that one goes down. And keep in mind, I don't want to make it sound like we're not on top of this. Here's what happens. These, as I've mentioned before, and all of you know this, these are all line-of-sight cameras. So instead of thinking of them as individual cameras, it's better to think of them as projects. The Midland project, this project, that project, Butternut Street. Because we're going to know right away if one of them goes down. It's not necessarily that we're going to know that one went down, but if it's one in the middle or at the end, if it's not the very end anchor, we're going to know that whole project has gone down because of the line of sight thing. So we do know this fairly soon when they go down. But there are cases where an incident has occurred, we're looking for footage, and it's not there because there is no alarm or beep that goes off when these are down.
Yeah. So how do you find out that it's not working? I mean, is that a case of if you go back to look at the footage and it's just you're not getting the right images?
Yeah, it's just eyesight. We have SPOs, retired officers that have come back. They're monitoring these cameras all the time to prevent crime or to to apprehend people after crime occurs. They're on them all the time, and they're viewing them. So as they're going through viewing them, they'll look at one set of cameras, and then they'll let, as this Councilor Green mentioned, they're going to let IT know, hey, I noticed that the Midland Ave camera is down. Or maybe it's not down, but there's something in the way of it. We're not seeing all the way down the street anymore.
But by then it's too late, right?
It's too late if something has occurred, but they're not just simply looking after something occurs. They're monitoring these cameras even before things occur. So,
Understood, thank you.
Now, how often do they do these routine checks to make sure whether it's working?
how often what?
How often do they do this routine check to make sure that they are either working or not working?
They're doing it whenever they're there. Again, they're not, these SPOs aren't coming in just simply to check to see whether the cameras are working. They're sitting in a chair in front of a monitor that shows, it doesn't show all 521 of them, but it shows a lot of them. It can bisect into a lot of cameras, and they're watching to see what's going on around the city. And then if there's a specific call that goes out for shots fired, they're going to that particular project. They're there in that seat. But part of this job, of course, would be if they spot that there's some cameras down, they're going to notify IT. So it's not an exclusive job just to check and see when cameras are down. They're already in the seat monitoring all these cameras.
I mean, Chief, the intent of these cameras is to be able to assist the SPD in solving crimes. Now, if there is no scheduled routine or regular check to make sure these are working, what's the point of even having them up there?
Well, again, Counselor, you have to keep in mind, the regular check is the SPOs. We have them. They're not 24/7 yet, but they're there quite frequently during the day, during the evening. Sometimes if we're having a particular crime trend, they're coming in during the midnight shift to watch these cameras. That's our warning system right now. And they're there a lot. So it's not as if we bring one in on Tuesday and he or she's not there again until the next week. They're there practically every day for some particular hours of the day, if not 8 hours a day. So it's a warning system, eyesight warning system for us, but it's frequent.
But there's no like on the books scheduled, this none of that.
Yeah,
Nothing.
they have a schedule.
Okay.
They have specific date.
Which is, and I'm trying to pin down, Chief, if is it once a week? Is it twice a week? Is it once a month? That's what I'm trying to get at.
There's somebody on cameras practically every day.
Every day.
For some hours of the day and night.
Okay.
Yep, and they do have a schedule. They all sign up on them. I think we have up to, I don't know, the last time I thought it might have been 15, 16 retired SPOs that do some hours on those cameras. It's a lot of them. They're coming in. I can get you that schedule, but it's practically every day, if not every day, for some specific hours of that day.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just real quick, Chief, just to be clear on this, I understand, there's two different definitions of what down means in the department with these cameras. So, when it actually goes down, like it blacks out, it stops working, do you get no notification? Because I understand down where, storm happens, branch hits, lands over it, it's covered up, you can't see, that's down, and it needs to be cleared and fixed. But the camera itself is still operating properly. When it goes down and it's no longer working, blackout, that's it. We don't get any notification other than the routine individuals that are monitoring the camera, going through, looking at each image, saying, okay, that's clear, I can see that, I can see that. Nothing tells us, that's it, it's out, we gotta go change that right now.
Sure. So let me clear that up. And I'm glad you asked that because I just want to make it clear. So as far as down from day to day, no, it's eyesight. But there is a system that handles all of our camera footage coming in. So if you were to go on to the midnight, let's just Butternut Corridor, and you went on there without even looking at footage, you would see each camera, and it would be, I don't know, Butternut Street has about 11 or 12 cameras. You could see the entire project up there. If they were down, meaning broke, you would see a red bar.
So it does, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
If they're up
I
there,
just
it's
wanted to be
green.
clear
Yeah.
on that. Okay.
Yeah, but I know it's important. Just recently, when something occurred in Strathmore, the stolen vehicle into the tree. There was a bunch of Facebook posts, the cameras are down, we don't have footage. The mayor himself called me, and I called someone, and sure enough, we had footage and stills of it. So I don't know where that message came from, but they weren't down. We didn't catch a lot of it because the tree hit is behind a bush, so it didn't pick up anything, but they were up. And so we hear sometimes from folks out there, they're down. But there is that red bar IT is checking that as much as they can, but they're tasked with a bunch of other things as well.
I have a quick question, Councilor Majok. So yesterday, Chief, when the whole north side got wiped out, did the cameras go down or were they functioning on something else?
Almost every one of our cameras, with the exception of one series, is hooked up to National Grid. So if power goes down, the cameras go down.
Okay. And quick question for you, because I know you have a massive operation within the public safety building. Is there a possibility that I can get a tour so that I can see that?
Possibility to what?
Get a tour.
I can't.
A tour.
Tour.
A tour.
Let's look around.
I still don't understand.
Tour of the facility and the equipment.
I guess I'm not, everybody else is understanding the question but me, and I don't want to answer that. Is there a core in the SPD? I don't have my ear things in today, so.
I thought President Hudson was going to ask you to go on tour.
Someone's got to ask, so really, help me out here. Everyone
She
seems
would
to
like a
understand.
tour of the facility. She wants to look at the facility.
Oh, you want to look at it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you can come in and look at that, sure. Sure. Wow, I'm sorry that was so difficult. I really,
I know.
yeah, these mics are crazy. If you want to come in and see where where these SPOs monitor the cameras, what they're looking at, what they're doing, not a problem.
Thank you.
We can do that. Yep, sure. And sorry about that.
It's good for comic relief. It's good.
Any other questions for tours?
Nobody wants to ask me anything now, right? I think that's enough.
No more
Just
tours.
bring your brother with you, comedy show.
All right, thank you, Chief.
You're very welcome. Thanks.
Councilor Allen.
44 through 55. So, item, we have some questions on that, Commissioner Collins. One of the questions, I know before we asked if you guys had checked with the county to see if they were actually doing this. So we need to follow up on that for sure, and I think Councilor Hogan and Councilor Bay have questions.
So the county has not indicated to us what their, if they've made a decision yet on whether or not they would be allocating any funds to it.
I thought they were prohibited from allocating funds towards this amount.
So the idea of
80 to 100 AMI.
So it depends on where the funds would come from. So all of the funds that have been Treasury funds, and all of the funds that have come through the CARES Act. So that's Treasury and the CDBG CV funds that this body approved previously. Those are capped. As far as ARPA is concerned, the question as to whether or not the county intends to allocate money from there, that question is not yet answered.
Right, so they would be pulling from the same type of pots we would be pulling from.
Correct.
Their ARPA money that's not specifically designated for this.
Correct.
And I forget, did we have any guarantee that this would be directed towards the city? Should
Yes.
we approve this?
Oh, 100%.
80 to 100, or 100% of it would be.
In the city. So specifically.
Sorry, Councilor, I didn't mean to hop in there.
Yeah.
Can I relate to that? So if the county were to later on decide to spend money, would they not give it to city residents because we already gave money? Like, would it all go to the suburban residents? Or would they still allocate some of their pot to additional city residents?
So excellent question for the county. From our perspective, the working relationship that we've had is with the county. When you look at the Treasury funds that they've received, we did not receive that. So they have worked closely with us to make sure that, recognizing that the greatest need is in the city, that's where they've allocated the greatest amount of funding. Specific to ARPA funds, I can't speak for them.
Mr. Collins, are they charging us anything for administering this program?
So what we would have within the contract is the ability to go up to 10% for administration. Their stated goal to us is to be able to keep it at 0%. They believe that they'd be able to cover the administration out of their Treasury funds and the CARES Act funding that we've allocated with them.
Has that not been finalized yet?
I'm sorry.
Has it not been finalized yet, that, like, the match or the administrative costs? Like you said, it could be zero, it could be something else.
Well, the council hasn't approved it yet, so no, nothing's been finalized.
I understand. Thank you.
Commissioner, does the county have the capacity? Because I'm only saying this because we still have the rental assistance that has only, we still have 20 million left. So will they have the capacity to move this forward?
So, good question. And I think one of the things that, we've talked about before, there's been the concern about what the pace of moving things along are with the county. The county intentionally opted out of the state system because the state had put together a system that's operated through OTDA to administer funds, specifically the treasury funds, for rental assistance. The county opted out, believing that they would be able to serve the local constituents faster and better. And the reality is they have been exceptionally faster and exceptionally better than the state has been. They had millions out the door before the state had a penny out the door across the state. So by the time the state had 5% of their money out the door, the county had over 25%.
And I appreciate that, but my point is, I'm talking to tenants and I'm talking to landlords, and a lot of folks haven't received anything, and they're still waiting. So I'm just trying to understand how fast are they gonna expedite this? So
yeah, fair question. It's still a process, and so there are 3 points in which the process tends to get hung up. One, the tenant has not provided all of the information, and so there's just the iterative follow-up process between the tenant and the person that they're assigned to at DSS. And DSS has contracted with different nonprofit entities that's been able to assist tenants in being able to do that. Since the eviction moratorium's been in place, there's not the immediate crisis in front of people, and so there's certainly people that are focusing on the other emergencies in their life, and so that they're not immediately responsive for some of them, not for all.
I get it for the tenants, but there is an immediate crisis for a lot of these landlords.
So there's an immediate crisis for the landlords, right? So sometimes it's on responsiveness from the tenant, sometimes it's on responsiveness from the landlord. The third issue that we found is landlords that had until now chosen to not obey our ordinance regarding a rental registry, or had let it expire, or have open code violations past a comply by date, or have not even applied for or scheduled a certificate of compliance inspection. This process has skyrocketed the amount of applications that we've had come in. And right now, we're working closely with DSS on how to handle the cases where the landlords, no matter what, still won't comply.
What's the percentage that you've gotten to comply so far?
We are, so over 1,000 cases, and this is off the top of my head, so forgive me if I'm off a little bit, but I believe there's, out of 1,000 cases at this point, there's only 35 or so that still have not complied. So it's been exactly what we would hope it would be.
That if the council approves this, we can add is that we were just notified by CNY Works that they received about $600,000 from the state labor department and asked us where we could use assistance. So what we're going to do is hire ambassadors specifically for this issue to help people through this process. And again, particularly because this funding will be the only pot of funding for that 80 to 100 threshold, which has never been eligible for any of this money. But we believe that team of individuals we're able to bring on from the neighborhoods that can help with that process also would help. They can do follow-up for paperwork. They can intervene where there's an issue.
Are you going to place them in different facilities like the Magnarelli, the CISO? Are they going to be placed around the city?
Yeah, we just want to bring them on through CNY Works. Okay. Yep. I just think that would be another tool to help us get the process moving.
Okay.
That would definitely help, because most of the tenants that I've been working with, they won't fill the application out unless you like physically sitting right there with them and kind of helping them, or they have some type of assistance. And a lot of them, they actually qualify. They just don't know how to fill the application out. So
and I will say, and I've said it before, and this is the county's logjam process Mike has talked about, but the other thing is there has been no pressure for anyone to go after that money.
Right.
But bringing other people who can help with that process may move it along a little faster.
Online, Deputy Mayor, is application online?
Yes.
Because maybe then we can sit
We
with
can
them.
send it to the council, the link.
So that the ambassador can sit with them and actually fill it
Can
out
do,
online.
can do it right there.
Okay.
So one of the problems, that I think the county was having, it's that doing this online, the tenants didn't know how to upload the documents they need to, the documentation they need to make themselves eligible for this.
We're hoping that the ambassadors will be able to intervene. We found this to be helpful when it came to code violations, helping people even file with our code and code department. So that model, I believe, is successful. So we thought when they said, how could you use this? The first area was COVID and intervention around the vaccination, but we just got the CDC grant. So to me, the more urgent next thing in line was absolutely this rent relief to help get this money moving.
Are we going to have the same requirements as the other program from the tenants? I hear that there's a lot of documentation they need to
There
gather.
is a lot of documentation because as particularly Councilor Hogan has pointed out, we have a lot of reporting requirements, so we have to make sure it's in line. We think that this assistance by individuals who can
Is
help
what's going to
people,
make it better. Okay.
that is the desire.
Did you carve out any money for laptops for these folks?
She has the flexibility within the money, so that is an option if it's laptops or iPads. Yep.
I feel that we're getting a little bit apples and oranges here. We're talking about 80% AMI to 100% AMI.
Correct. Yep.
And as Councilor Driscoll brought up, our fear is that the county won't be able to allocate this type of assistance countywide or to city residents. Is that clear?
Your concern is that the county will not allocate ARPA money that they have
To city residents.
To city
Who are
residents.
county taxpayers.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay, so that's our fear here? Mm-hmm. Have they said yes or no? I mean, 80% AMI is around, what, $40,000 a year, something like that, right?
Depending on family size, it's actually higher.
Not for this $1 million. This $1 million is 100% city, and that will be the agreement we have with them.
Well, yeah, but I'm understanding we're county taxpayers too.
Yeah.
And so
I don't
why
like the
can't,
idea of paying them 10% either.
why we, yeah, exactly, why were you
wanna
paying
pay
them
them anything.
10% to take care of people that pay county taxes
Well,
too?
as far as the admin, I agree with you. We're paying admin from the other sources. We're adding $1 million. It's a new population of people.
But it's a new population, but we don't have a yes or no from the county saying if they're gonna do this or not.
They have not committed to taking their ARPA dollars.
They haven't said no, though.
They haven't said no.
No.
They have not told us whether they're gonna take their ARPA dollars and create a similar program.
They got $19 million left to spend, and they're not gonna,
Not on this population.
They can't spend out of that pot,
So
but they do
that's
have
a
other
zero.
money.
okay, that's what I didn't hear yet. Now, so the feds are saying that they're prohibited from rental assistance.
Wait a minute.
Not what ARPA money.
Wait a minute. ARPA money, they can decide to do what they want to do.
Yeah, that's not true.
We as city administration, and Mike and I said, we have a population of individuals in the city that have never been eligible for any of this rent relief. So we picked 80 to 100% and said, here's a process that we can go through with the county that allocates to, because the money goes to the landlord. They already have that mechanism. So that's why we came up with this idea for that 80 to 100% population for only city residents, and we would like the county to administrate. Now, your concerns about why money hasn't moved through is valid. Part of the reason is just the process for people, which is why I would like to bring in these ambassadors to help.
We don't know that the county hasn't said no on this, right?
No, they have not
Correct.
said no.
And I guess that, Councilor Hogan, that was my question, which for me, I'm trying to figure out the reason we are substituting $1 million or giving it to the county to administer. Is it because the county has no money or they have not thought about it?
So.
We thought about it. The city of Syracuse thought about the needs of people who are 80 to 100%. There are so many programs that we administer through our HUD dollars, take ARPA out, that they never qualify for. Many of the programs we provide through home headquarters, they never qualify for because they're over that HUD threshold.
So here we had an opportunity to say, they have problems with rent relief and falling behind as well. So here's an opportunity that we thought internally, let's take $1 million and provide that and make that available. I have no data to support this, just 30 years of experience that population will be more likely to get through a process and go ahead and do this. The only thing that would hold it up could be whether the landlord is not in the rental registry, has code violations, because we're not going to compromise that. We're not going to pay landlords who are not ensuring quality housing.
I think for me, Deputy Mayor, I think it's worth a conversation having with the county. I think we should talk to the county first before we do anything, because here's where I am with it. If there was an allocation of money, and I understand the 80% population is not thought of. I think the intention here from the city is great. I think considering that the county is the one that has got this pot of money that still has a lot of money left over, before we start spending our pennies, I would think that we have a conversation with them, and hopefully with the $19 million that is left, to be able to see if they could steer it to that direction. Because like everybody said.
Counselor, I would just say this. $1 million is great, $2 million would even be greater. The need is there, particularly for that.
And I don't deny that. I don't deny that, the Deputy Mayor. I don't deny that the need is there. But I think considering that the county is sitting on all of this money that they haven't even touched yet, I think for us, the point that I'm saying and other councilors are saying is, if we are going to spend money, let's be impactful. Let's put them where it really makes sense. And it does make sense, but we have a first line of defense, which is that's part of tons of money still left from all of that the county was proposed. Let's have a conversation with them. I think here, no one is rejecting the idea that there's a need in the city. But I think let's spend them when we have exhausted the other resources.
I agree that the county, the city is absolutely in the county. The city is a major player in the county, and the impact of what the county has to do needs to impact the city greatly. And that has been that is the premise behind the CV funds. I work for the city of Syracuse. I'm a city of Syracuse resident. So what came before me was an opportunity to help people who've never been able to be helped. I wasn't considering whether the county was going to make a moral decision to do what we decided to do. What I brought before you is what I thought was best for that population within our community that needed help.
It's still a great idea. I don't disagree with that.
Look, I'm on board. I look at these. This is a group of people that fell through the cracks, that got no help, that probably still needed help because everybody went through hard times. My concern is twofold. Number one, we're not giving the county a nickel for this. They're not 10%. I don't really care. We're not paying them.
That's a deal breaker.
But I want to know, number one, when are we going to know? Because I've made this clear. I don't know for how long I've been here. 6 years. I don't vote on things until I know exactly where things are being allocated. So I want to know before we vote on this what the agreement is with the county. Is it 0 or is it 10? Because that's a big difference. And number two, why do we? I'm still a little bit unclear with this. Is it just that the county's sort of been more efficient? Because I agree, like looking at the difference between what the state has done. Why are we not able to allocate these funds ourselves? We have to go through DSS?
So really good question.
Yeah.
So to that point, the idea is that we do not have infrastructure to do that. Okay. The infrastructure sits with DSS. And so for us to be able to do it, we'd be in the same position as the state. We would have to create it.
Go through it. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense, and I understand that. But yeah, to Council Hogan's point, I think everybody who said it, we're all county taxpayers. If we're going to take these funds and give this over to the county, I get it. I really do. There are a lot of people where there were these great programs that the state or the federal government came up with, where folks fell through the cracks where it's okay, you didn't meet it, to this threshold. You needed, 25%, you're only 20. So, that 5%, that makes a world of difference. So I get it, and I'm fine with it. And if we have to go through to DSS to go do this, fine. You know, I'm not really a big fan
Your
of.
message to the county is zero admin or no?
Yeah, and I want to know when we're going to know, because I'm not going to vote on this. I'll object and hold the vote until we know.
So, yeah,
I'll
so-
be clear about that. We're not voting on this till I know exactly what we're paying the county.
Yeah, so we'll find out. So a couple of points of clarification. They have verbally said that their intent is 0%.
Okay.
Because they do believe that they have the capacity to do it with what they've got. But we can absolutely clarify with it. The money that they have distributed so far and still have access to within the system is solely for those that are below this income bracket, are 80% and below. So this is an income bracket that, to your point, has fallen through the cracks and does not have, and has never had access locally to that. Other communities did, because other communities had access to Treasury CARES Act funds because they were over 500,000 population.
And I'm
All right, so if you can find out those two things by Monday for us, then we'll figure out if we're holding this or not.
Counselor Allen, could I ask one? Michael, are we still limited by the census tracts on this issue too?
If it's ARPA fund.
So
For the ARPA money?
for ARPA funding for this particular one, we are limited by income,
Oh, just income?
just income.
Is there a cap to what they can apply for?
So there's a cap in time. They can apply for up to 12 months. There's not a dollar cap.
But no cap in dollars?
No.
Oh?
So just a quick, just a clarification. So if the county is going to charge us 10% for admin, right?
Worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario. Then why are we going through the county? Why didn't we give it to local organization like Home Headquarters?
Because there is no local organization that has the capacity to do this. I'm perhaps sensing something from the side of you that suggests that Home
just said
Headquarters
no.
is not necessarily interested. But when you look at the ability to tap into the labor system to see if they actually have filed for unemployment, you know, that they actually certified correctly their own information, that locally only exists with the county.
Equally important is our ability, as we already work with the county, to ensure the quality of the housing before we pay them out.
And I want to reiterate one more thing, because I think all of my colleagues have said this, and this is for the county. We are part of Onondaga County, and people need to understand that. But what I want to ask is, before the council votes on this, is there any way that you guys can negotiate everything that needs to be done before this comes before us with the county?
What else would you be looking to negotiate?
As far as how they're going to distribute it, as far as the percentage rate and how it's going to go out?
So that would all fit within their existing guidelines. So that's all set.
So that's all in the contract already?
That would be within the contract, yeah. That's what we have agreed to, the fact that everything would be the same except for the income, the area median income. That is the only thing that would change.
Okay, so what you're giving us now, that's included in there or no?
Within the letter, we simply put in there that this would be, the fact that it would be all the same, plus but for the area median income of 80 to 100%.
I'm sorry, we're giving things up here, but that raises an interesting point. So does that mean that for the current funds that are being administrated through the CBDG grant, that we are paying the county administrative costs on that money?
Yes.
How much?
10%. They had to bring on significant additional staff to be able to, the amount of work that's happening. So
2 rounds, 3 rounds of CD?
four different grants, 2 rounds of CDBG, 2 rounds of ESG. If they had tried to do it with the same number of staff that they had, then they would be probably performing at the same level that the state
This
is.
is additional money onto the system they created.
Yeah. We asked them to do more work.
Yeah, and again, I'm fine with that, because that's, you have to bring on more staff to do that. They're not allocating funds for that 80 to 100%. So we're not going to take that out of that pot. We're not going to give them $100,000 to do this. They can use their funds that they're not allocating towards this for that staff if they need to. That's, yes.
Yep.
There's no reason we should, I want the most amount of money to go to this group of people.
Understood.
And just point, if the contract is not included in here, I think we need to see that.
I'm sorry, Counselor, say it again?
Contract needs to be included so we can see it,
Would it be in
if it's not in there.
the current agreement? Adding money?
Say it one more time,
Would it
Deputy.
be an amendment to the current agreement? We wouldn't be adding admin. And we'd be adding a pot of money and increasing the income that we're asking them to actually bet. So would it be, I mean, I have to ask all.
What do you mean?
I don't believe that it would, and if we did that, then we'd be paying the 10% that you have already agreed to on that, so that wouldn't necessarily work for us.
Well, wait,
But when you look at it, if you read through here, what it says is, basically, I just lost it, but right here, it talks about council. It says, be it further that the agreement shall be subject to the approval of the corporation council as to terms. So shouldn't corp council formalize this agreement before we do it? It should be in a intermunicipal agreement with Onondaga County.
Yeah, we currently have one with the terms of the changes.
Yes, good afternoon, Joe Barry, First Assistant Corporation Counsel.
Good afternoon.
So, with intermunicipal agreements, historically, the council has approved the broad project, and we've worked with the county law department to put that form of agreement into effect. The agreements vary a lot because we're either working on an engineering project or a parks-related project. There's the sewer system. But, so when it comes to this particular project, and I think the previous projects done under COVID, DSS, being a department of the county, has their own particular form of IMA, intermunicipal agreement, and typically they send it over to us, and consulting with the commissioner, we make our recommendations and we push back where we don't think it's in the interest of the city. So that would be the process, and to answer your question, I don't know that the county has actually sent over a draft agreement yet.
not yet.
So that,
Right, because what I'm reading in this ordinance is, yeah, it is nothing, but it says that it's approval of court council, but it also talks about the ARPA funds will be expanded subject to the approval of the Commissioner of Finance. So there's two layers there.
yes, and that's kind of standard language because obviously the law department has to approve the form in terms of the final contract for the mayor's signature, but the finance department has to make sure everything is in order before they actually cut a check. So it's different roles each department plays to make sure we're expending the money properly.
And welcome back, Joe Barry.
Thank you.
All right, so I put a,
Exactly what you needed from us before Monday, council action.
yeah, okay. So you want me to, yep, we need a guarantee on the 0% admin fee, and then also to check, to make sure that the county won't be funding this particular, group as well.
Yes.
So those two things. And I guess Joe Berry will do his part with the law link.
So,
So the county legislature either has in front of them or just did have their IMA in front of them for this. So as soon as that is sent over to us, we'll see it. I don't have a timeline for exactly when we would get that.
Okay. All right, so I'll just put a question mark for 44.
Okay.
All right, and item 45, this was for the 230 Harrison Street. We talked about it in the committee meeting, so if there's any questions, they can be answered now. No? Okay,
So,
thank you. All right, so that'll be ready.
Jacket.
Item 46, I'm actually gonna withdraw. I was trying to figure out exactly where the property was, but then when I rode past, it is a troubled property, but I don't feel like we should give it to Peace, for I guess they wanted to do like a community garden, Michelle. And I'm not sure if you guys can visualize the area, but there's literally a community garden like right across the street on Bellevue, and then there's also a community farm right down the street.
if I could add,
And-
Councilor Allen, outside of item 49, which already has, some kind of structure there, I'm uncomfortable with every single one of these vacant lots being sold to the land bank, with all due respect, because it appears to be going in contradistinction to what we initially agreed. Even when I'm looking at the property on Leon, on the MLK, and I understand that the intent is to sell them to the church in a city that's cash strapped for money, with a grossly underperforming tax base, we can't afford to take perfectly buildable lots that can generate revenue for the city and take them off the tax rolls.
Councilor Allen, if I can just jump in with two quick clarifications. 407 Bellevue is not something that is supposed to be going for a community garden. It's a set of parcels that we're having a lot of issues and complaints from the neighborhood residents nearby about loitering in the area. So the intent with this particular set of parcels, and there's going to be two additional ones that I think on the subsequent agenda we were hoping to put forward. The idea is that we would create a package of land assembly that we could work with DPW to do some crime prevention through environmental design interventions at the site. The reason for that particular site at Bellevue across from Peace, the idea with approaching them to see if they would be willing to enter into a lease agreement for it in some way, shape, or form with the land bank, is to have an additional layer of site control and kind of site stewardship at the property to hopefully cut down on some of the activity that is going on in there.
Before you go too far.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm not comfortable with giving it to Peace. If you were familiar, last year or the year before, we gave MLK, there's a lot right behind Peace. We gave that to them. It's absolutely nothing right now. It's garbage, trash, overgrown trees.
Sure.
So that's going to be a no for me.
And if I can add, clearly you're unfamiliar with the area you're describing. That will do nothing to stop those people from loitering.
Yeah,
over
no.
there. That's a fact. So I'm absolutely against that. If you're not building nothing, that's what'll move people, when you put a structure there. But just putting something else there that's decorative or anything similar, they'll still be there.
So, and then the other quick clarification that I wanted to make, if I could, as far as the properties, I think you mentioned on Leon, the idea is not to give those properties to the church. So there's no plans for that at all whatsoever. The idea is to have the land bank get some site control over them so that they can be held in reserve specifically for future development related to Blueprint 15, and try to mitigate the idea of anyone redeeming in them and holding on to them to try to kind of leverage additional sale value. So
Yes, I've been in discussions about 54 and 55. I haven't talked to them about the item 50. But just so we're going in order, I'm gonna go back to 47. Starting at 47, that's the 19 Portland one. And this one was, just the adjacent owner was interested in purchasing that one.
correct.
Cortland Ave. Alright, and then we go down to item 48, the Delaware Street and Grace Street.
That's the Delaware and Grace, that's not that's the
Yeah.
giant building, correct?
No, it's currently a vacant lot.
It's a vacant lot next to that giant building that we've been trying to take down for years?
Correct, yep. So the idea is that we would hold it for infill construction.
Counselor Hogan, you had,
Oh, I thought that Delaware and Grace was going to be on the agenda today. That was that building that's been a vexish building for the whole neighborhood for a long time. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can follow up with you about it on the specifics afterwards.
Can we hold on to this until we find out exactly what it is? Because I thought this was the one that was on the building.
I guess I just have a question, and I don't mean to sort of dump this on you, because it's more the land bank that it is specifically, but when we hold these things for, like to fill in and to build and all this, how many of these projects have we actually done? I mean, it seems like every meeting, we're giving the land bank these, piles of vacant lots, and, every so often we have, a nice project that gets done that I, read the newspaper that the mayor and the county exec and all these other individuals that are elected are at for a photo opportunity. But how many of these are we actually, like, I guess I'm a little frustrated, because I understand that we say, okay, let's take two lots that aren't buildable, combine them, and we're gonna build a house, or we're gonna try and work with home headquarters or some other group, and it's crazy expensive, and I get that, and we have to find grants, but how many of these are we actually doing? Because it just seems like the land bank is, just amassing tons of vacant lots that we're not doing anything with.
Councilor Carney, if I could just interrupt a little bit.
Yeah.
This was put together, I mean, obviously, any vacant lots are passed over the land bank, become the land bank's responsibility as far as maintenance and everything else. If we don't pass them over the land bank, they remain the city's responsibility.
Yeah, and I understand and I appreciate that.
I mean,
Legally,
you're right.
We don't want that on the line. Yeah, I get it from our perspective, and I get it. Over at the land bank, we toss over a lot of them, but what are we doing with them? I mean, that's my concern. What do we just?
And before you answer, I want to piggyback on that. Is the land bank gonna be able, you said infill, so is the land bank gonna do the infill, or are they gonna turn around and resell it for the infill? How does that work?
So the land bank is holding on to the properties so that they can be turned over to one of our housing developer partners. So Jubilee Homes, Home Headquarters, particular partners that we're always working with across the city to do some of that construction. We can go back and try to get some specific numbers as far as of the lots that we've transferred over the last couple of years through the council to the land bank and where those are at in different states of development. I can tell you as far as some of the different requirements that we have depending on the source of funding and what we're required to present to the state in terms of site control before we're allowed to get a property to a point where we're actually able to start construction. We have to be planning for this 3 years in advance of where we're looking to try to do site assembly. So part of the reason oftentimes we're trying to do some of this assembly, it's basically to prevent property owners who are not currently being good stewards of their properties from redeeming on them and sitting on them for even longer.
No, and I get that. And again, it's not me trying to dump on either, you guys or, the land bank or any of the other groups that do the actual building, but it just seems like every meeting we take on these empty lots, and I never, I shouldn't say never, because that's not fair. I rarely see finished it seems like there's every once in a blue moon we get tiny homes or a grocery store, something that's built on these lots that we've seized, but, it's far and few between.
So Councilor, if I may, so a couple of things. One is as far as the what's under construction right now, we've got a tremendous amount of Woodlawn Baker area.
Yep.
We'll have 19 this year for single-family homes. That is, that's because of the fact that this body years ago moved stuff over. In your district, if you look at Butternut Street,
Yep.
that everything that Housing Visions did along Butternut Street, that project was the first that the land bank had of properties altogether. So that, if you go back to the beginning of the land bank until when it was finished this past year, it's a long time to be able to do it, but we can't do it if we don't have the right partners to be able to assist with not just the building, but also with the site control and with the ability to maintain when while we're going through the process of being able to secure all the funding and make sure that we've got the right partners identified.
I mean, Baker Avenue is the classic that was just.
That's a classic example.
Amassed, a bunch of.
But I think we have to be clear though, because I've been clear about this since many of you, before long any of you got here, to be quite frank. And I'm still seeing the land bank sell side, lots to other people that are perfectly buildable. And, Councilor Hogan, I know you sit on the board, but, I need some help with your director over there. And I understand, Michelle, that you may not be aware of what the plan is for Leon Street and Oakwood and the like, but we are. And Jubilee is involved with the effort that I'm talking about to build for the church. So, we have to, I'm not interested in us squandering any land resources for anything that doesn't generate revenue in a cash-strapped city. This is not a new conversation for me. And initially we were going in the right direction. This is what led to Woodlawn, Baker, and Garfield. That's the right direction. Infill development has been a discussion, once again, long before this administration got here. So, I would hope that we could keep going in that direction. The problem is once the land bank got it, they got it. So we need to make sure that if they're going to collect our resources, then they do what the city needs done.
Yes.
And that they're not just building, they're not just building up their asset portfolio or grouping properties as he mentioned, and then nothing happens. We can't continue down that road. And it's not the blame to you two, but you are defending it, so I got to talk to you.
No problem with that at all. No problem with that at all. I disagree with the belief that having the land bank hold them is not in the best interest of.
Yeah,
the
nobody
development of
said
the city.
that, so it's not a matter of disagreeing. That's not what I said.
That's not what you said, okay.
No. What I've said over and over again. Don't squander the land resources. They're buildable lots. Let's build on them. Let's improve our neighborhoods. You know, and I mentioned, you know, I can appreciate the love for community gardens, but this is a statement I've made many years as well. They look great in the summer. They look like graveyards in the fall and the winter, and nobody take care of them. And on the south side, we have too many of them.
And the
Right?
south side,
So
that's what we're
anytime we
looking to
hear
build.
this kind of thing, where houses have been torn down and left torn down for 30 years, and then there's no legitimate effort to make real use of the land, it's a problem for the taxpayer, as far as I'm concerned, aesthetically, financially, and otherwise. If we're intelligently trying to improve our condition in the city, then you build on the property, period.
And that's what we're doing with a lot of them.
And Commissioner Collins, just to ease my nerve a little bit in transitioning his properties to land bank. You know, you guys said earlier that the intent here is to take these vacant lots and give them to the housing developers, which is this organization, Home Headquarters, Jubilee Home, hopefully Empire Housing, tiny homes, right? Do we know on average a year, compared to how many lots and vacant property that we have given to land bank? Do we know, or combine, how many houses do these organizations produce that are supposed to be developing houses in this city?
So
In comparison to what we have
could, you know,
transitioned.
that's the type of thing, we can always go back and take a look at what we funded on a year-to-year basis. This year, for example, for the infill construction, for the single-family homes, we're looking at 19.
19 for the year?
Yeah.
Okay, I would be interested to see what they have done with the lots that we have given to land bank over time, what these organizations have done to try to change the narrative of what we are transitioning over, hoping that it's rolled back to the tax base. Could we see that number?
We can talk about that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, so item 49, that is the existing garden on Glenwood. I was okay with this one because the neighborhood actually wants it and they actually take care of it. So I'm okay with that. Does anybody have any questions or anything? 49? Okay, so item 49 is ready. We discussed 50 already. Item 51, that's on MLK. And this one was the same thing, site assembly within the Blueprint 15 area. Item 52, Counselor Driscoll, did you have any?
Yeah, I did have questions on that. Michelle, can you go into this one a little bit and let me know backstory here and what the thought is for the future of this lot? Is this potentially developed, or is this going to a nearby neighbor, or what's the thought process on this one?
Sure, so this is a really small frontage of parcel. Off the top of my head, I believe it was about 16 feet by 5 feet, so not anywhere close to the world of what would be buildable in any way, shape, or form. So the idea here is the owner occupant whose property abuts this particular lot, that he would just extend his backyard and take over the maintenance of it.
Take over maintenance for it? Okay, thank you.
I don't have any questions about it. We can either hold on to it, the city can take care of it, or give it to the land bank. Doesn't matter to me. 53 Nelson Street is not exactly, I don't know we're gonna be accumulating too much property on Nelson.
This was another property that we were hoping to target some possible infill construction too.
Well, then let's let the land bank have it. We can build some houses on Nelson Street.
Councilor Hogan, you got an attitude?
No, I'm just saying, I mean, to the point of the side lots, when the side lots become part of of another parcel, the people have to pay taxes on the side lots too. So, that's as far as tax goes.
Okay, and item 54 and 55, I was able to I had a meeting with Stephanie over at Blueprint, just to kind of get an idea of realistically, if these properties went to the land bank, and then it's my understanding that Blueprint has the first right refusal in these areas eventually. Would they be looking to do the single-family homes or two-family homes? And that's the direction that they're trying to go with these two particular lots. So I'm okay to move these to 54 and 55. And that's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilor Bay.
Thank you, Madam President. This was an item on the previous agenda in regards to ARPA funds for the jobs training program that Center State CEO will administer. We had a committee meeting the other day, and I believe all of the questions that my colleagues had on the committee and other counselors were answered. We agreed, Madam President, we know this is waivers are not your favorite thing.
Say.
I said, we know that waivers are not your favorite thing.
At all, but okay.
But the committee agreed to put it on by waiver, and so did a number of other counselors. So ultimately, that is what we plan to do for as long as we have the support. It'll be ready on Monday to be voted by waiver.
I'd just like to commend Counselor Bay for calling a meeting on that. Every question was answered. This is a great program, and I think we should go ahead on it.
That, I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?